Welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer Tucker Sennett, joining you here today to do what I'm calling a NC State football vibe check. Um, and I just want to kind of give a my general feelings on kind of the vibes and the atmosphere around this program right now with 2 weeks to go and how these guys are feeling. We had post practice availability today, Tuesday, with three players: Noah Rogers, Trevally Price, and Justin Jolie. Had Doran in his weekly press conference yesterday. NC State's on a quick turnaround here after that really ugly loss to Miami. They have to get right back at it and prepare for this Florida State game on Friday night at Carter Finley Stadium. But I just want to give my reaction to the three press conferences today, Doran's press conference, and kind of fill in the blanks for those who either missed those or are watching at home and don't get the same access. To put it simply, really the main reason I'm doing this podcast, and I've sort of resisted this throughout much of the season, after some of these losses because the players that have spoken after these losses are all, hungry to go out there and win. And today was pretty dreadful. These guys really it seems like Saturday, I'm not going to say broke them, but the vibes are really bad based on the players we spoke to today. I know Dave Doran continues to emphasize that this team wants to fight for him and they want to finish strong. But when you lose 41-7 against a top 15 team in a game that you were just not competitive in any way, shape, or form, it's not gonna feel good because now it's like, okay, you know, we can win two more games and get to a solid bowl game, one of those December 26th, 27th bowl games, or we can go in the tank here and it's a lost season. And there just didn't seem to be that fight that they had, after that Notre Dame loss, after that Pitt loss, especially coming out of the bye. Last week things were really chipper with this team. These guys thought that, they had knocked off Georgia Tech when the Yellow Jackets were ranked eighth in the country. They felt good. The vibes around the program, it sort of was like new life was there for Doran, for his players. Everybody in the building seemed like they had a new lease on life, and now it's pretty dreadful. These guys are quiet. These guys are kind of running out of time here for the seniors. There's only two games left, maybe three if you win one of these next two. And these two games are really important for Dave Doran to get to a bowl game. He's been pretty consistent with that, but hasn't won one in several years. The last one was the Sun Bowl against ASU 7 or 8 years ago. And this would be really important for him, going into the next season if they can win two games here and get over the hump in that bowl game wherever it is they go. But it starts with Florida State, and quite frankly, it just doesn't seem like a very confident team anymore. It feels like they got exposed in a big way by Miami. And to be fair, Miami's a very good team, a team that could be playing in the college football playoff. But to have that offense go from scoring 48 points uh, against Georgia Tech to scoring seven against Miami was shocking. And Justin Jolie today said that the plane ride back was a time where he really reflected and said what he's the type of player that he wants to figure out what he did wrong, not what his teammates did wrong, because he takes the credit for that before anybody else. And I'm not sure what his injury status is coming back, and he was out there and fighting, but I I don't know how many guys could have come back that would have made a difference in this one because this team is beaten. And that was another thing that contributed to me talking about this was Dave Doran seems to be kind of at the end of his patience with the injuries. There's just nothing this team can do. He's frustrated by the rosters that are or the roster count that's going to be cut down again. Because if this team didn't have 100 and whatever players this season, they would be in some serious trouble right now because they've lost so much on that defense in particular. And, offensively, there's certainly some guys that are playing somewhat dinged up. And I'm not going to say that that was a major impact on the game Saturday, but now you got a short week and you're playing a team that is kind of in the same boat, trying to save its season in a lot of ways, and is trying to get to a bowl game. And then you got your in-state rival with a Hall of Fame coach who's kind of a wounded beast right now. That North Carolina team is a mess. Now they got speeding tickets being reported on. It just seems to be some new comical dilemma every week, and it's unbelievable over there. Triangle football is pretty depressing because Duke looked like, maybe it could sneak into the ACC championship. They lose on Saturday. North Carolina's a mess. NC State is, kind of a wounded team. And it doesn't sound like anybody's coming back this week. In fact, it might be an even worse injury report than last week based on, people that left the game against Miami and how the short week affects sort of the recovery process for some of these players. So there's going to be a lot of lost seasons for guys just because of those injuries and for other guys who have sort of not played into the roles that I think they were expected to. And that's problematic moving forward. We'll see, how the off season goes for this team because we're now kind of into the I'm not going to say free agency phase of college football, but we're getting there. And if you think some of these players' phones aren't ringing, you'd be wrong. There's talent on this team that I'm sure is somewhat appealing to other schools. You saw it last year with NC State, kind of got pillaged for some top players. Look at Casey Concepcion. That kind of felt like it was going to end anyway. But yeah, I mean, it could be a long 4 weeks for this team, unless there's an injection of energy somehow. I don't know what that would look like. I'm sure they're going to come out and play hard for their fans. Two night games to end the season. Friday night's a late one at 8 p.m. at the Carter. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see if Doran has, some sort of juice that he can squeeze out of this team down the stretch because right now they really don't feel like a team that has much left to play for. And I know that that'll be rebuked by every single person in that building, but from the outside looking in, that's sort of the appearance here. And quite frankly, in the modern landscape of college football, I think there's certainly some issues with players, kind of looking ahead down the road. When a season's lost, these guys are kind of looking at next options. If, offensive players aren't getting the reps that they want, they're looking at other options to find the place that's going to help them be the best football player that they can be. And there's a lot of players on this NC State team that could be having those conversations with their circles. And, with 2 games left and uncertainty there, it begs the question, like, is the effort going to be there? And this team's going to go through another huge makeover during the off season. I'm not sure coaching staff wise much is going to change, but in terms of roster construction, I think, some of these depth pieces that have been able to step up and play well will probably be more critical next year and potentially be playing in more prominent roles. They're going to have to really rebuild this defense, especially on the defensive line. They're going to lose a lot of pieces. And then who knows with offense? You got a big question mark at quarterback who has played really well, but has probably earned the attention of some other programs here, and that's those conversations are going to have to be had in terms of the resources that you're going to expend to ensure that you can keep some of these pieces and you can run it back next year with some members of this group that proved at times, like the Georgia Tech game, that it could be an elite offense. Then there were other times where it was a disaster, like on Saturday. So we'll see. The things aren't looking particularly great for this football program. I know it's a week by week business, and I might be being a little harsh on them, but just it was just kind of off-putting today to listen to these guys who, for the last few weeks and months are kind of pouring their heart into this team, and it just feels like now. I'm not again, I'm not going to say it, but and I'm not going to say that this is what they're feeling, but it feels like there might be nothing left for these guys to play for in terms of the future. I think, the older guys would love to win a bowl game, but at the end of the day, uh, it's it's just it's kind of a disappointing limp to the finish for this team. And there's been a ton of outside circumstances. Doran brought that up last night. you know, you got injuries, you got really, really sad stuff off the field with DJ Elliott's family and some other things that have gone on. And it's just been a very, very adversity filled season for NC State football, and it feels like that adversity has finally caught up to this team. And that's kind of where they're at. That's all I got today. Thanks for tuning in. As usual, if you want more content, go ahead and follow me on X at Senate Tucker. You can follow the website on X at Wolfpack on SI and get daily episodes of the NC State Insider podcast on the sports videos on SI YouTube page. Lots of other good stuff for our NFL coverage and other colleges being covered on that page every day. All sorts of good stuff. So, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow.